Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to take a look at a couple of books that have been sent over to me by subscribers. I recently did a video in which I looked at a couple of books that have seen some downward pressure on their prices and values, and I identified these as books that folks may want to consider picking up if these have been books that are on your list. And so as a result of that video, I had a couple of people reach out to me to say, hey, is now a good time to buy this book or that book? So that is what we're going to look at in this video. Stay tuned. This video is sponsored by Shortboxed, the easiest and safest way to buy and sell graded comic books. Download the app today using the link in the description. So let's go ahead and look at a few examples that people have sent over to me based upon the first video that I conducted. And the very first book that we're going to look at is Werewolf by Night, issue number 32. This is the first appearance and origin of Moon Knight. This has been a hot book for a while now. And so a few folks out there are very much interested in this book. And so we're going to look at whether now is the time to potentially buy this book, especially if it's a book that has been on your list. If it's been something that you've set your sight on, now could potentially be the time to go ahead and snag it. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the details for this one. I am going to first look at an 8.5. And part of the reason for that is because this book gets really expensive in the higher grades. And so I wanted to start with the 8.5 for a few reasons. There are 465 of them on the census. There are a healthy number of sales at 230. The FMV is somewhat reasonable at $3,600. So it felt like this was a good place to kind of jump on and at least examine what was happening with this specific book. For newer books, I tend to prefer 9.8s, but for some of the older books, a lower grade makes a whole lot of sense. So let's go ahead and click on this, and we're doing this from the Go Collect platform for those that may not be familiar. So here we can see in 8.5 there are 4,500 universal blue label copies out there. And a total of 4,900 that are graded. So that would include all of the other labels. But what you can see here is that this book is currently sitting as of June at a cost or value of $2,700. And if we were to back up and look at, let's say, the month of May, in May, this book was going for basically $4,000. And from May to June, it has dropped to $2,713. That is a $1,200 difference between the two, 4 and 8.5. You can see again over here, the FMV for this book is still at $3,600, which is ridiculous. I mean, given where things are playing out right now, but there's a couple of reasons for that. If you look here down at some of the sales, you can see that there are some books right here. One that went for about $3,000. This one should probably be thrown out, because as you look at this one, someone paid $5,000 for it. But if you look at the photo, it appears that what they're getting is a complete run of Moon Knight. And so, well, technically maybe Werewolf by Night and also Moon Knight. So this is an entry that should probably be thrown out. And as a result of that, that may impact that FMV to some degree or another, because you can see some of the other sales kind of fall a little bit in line with that. But there is definitely in general sense, a downward trend in what is being sold. And a lot of these are actually coming from eBay. As you can see, 1 year ago, this book was selling for $4,300 at an 8.5. The 90-day average is at 36, and the 30-day average is 27.14. So again, the trend for this book is definitely in a downward direction. Let's go ahead and take a look at another example to see whether this trend holds true for other grades. So this one is an 8.0, and there are 420 of those on the census with about 178 sales with an FMV of $240. Let's go ahead and click on that one. And what we can see is that this book is selling for $2,500 as of June. And if we back up to May, it is $2,600, which is a relatively small drop of about 130 bucks between the two. So not a huge fall off in this one. This book has an FMV of $2,400, as I mentioned, and you can see the last couple of sales have been around $3,000. Not quite sure about this one. This is one I would have to look up because it was a best offer. I would have to go to Terapeak on eBay to look that one up to see what that one ultimately went for. But you can see around $3,000 or so is where many of these are sitting. And again, this is one that may need to be examined because back in May it sold for $2,300, but there appear to be a couple of comics that came, at least one other comic that came along with it. So this one is a little bit of a struggle, right? Because I mean, you're off of the high, right? But it's only a $128 drop. But if we back up to April, this book was going for $3,600. If we back up to January of this year, $3,800 is where it was. And again, you can kind of see the fall off as you go from the 1 year to the 90 to the 30-day average. There is definitely a downward trend in the numbers, and then also illustrated here on the chart as well. So let's look at one other example for Werewolf by Night. We're going to look at a 7.0. This one has 364 books on the census, 143 sales. It has a lower FMV at 170. I'm sorry, at 1700. And let's see whether that holds up over here. You can see the book right now is going for about 1700. Specifically, the most recent sale was 1691. If we back up a little bit, you can see that the book was going for about 1862 in May, which again is about 170 some odd dollar difference between the two. This one's tough, right? You see the 1 year at 2400. The 90-day is at 19, and the 30-day is again trending down at about 1737. So this could be a book again that if you've been looking at this book and you've wanted this book because you're a Werewolf by Night fan, or you're a fan of Moon Knight, this again could be a book that you may want to pick up. We could potentially be in a lull right now with this book. We could be in a lull. And I say that because we all know that one of the biggest drivers of value right now, for better or worse, are the movies and the TV shows, basically the MCU. And so right now we are in this lull where we do not know whether there is going to be a second season of Moon Knight. If there isn't a second season of Moon Knight, I could see the values and the prices of this book actually dropping as a result of that, because the MCU is a big driver. If there is an announcement that there is going to be a season 2 of Moon Knight, and I think that there should be, you could actually see this downward trend reverse itself, because the MCU is a big driver of value. And so again, if you've been staring at this book and it's one that you want, now could potentially be the time to jump on it before there is an announcement. The other gamble that you could make is that there's not going to be a second season, and this thing will continue to slide and tumble in value, and then you can pick it up even more inexpensively later. That is for the individual to decide what to do in this situation, but definitely a really cool book. It is not necessarily a book that I have my sights set on, but it is a cool book. I will tell you that it is a wonderful book, and if this were my jam, I might actually pick this one up. So another book that was sent over to me that folks asked about was Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing issue number 37, the first appearance of John Constantine. This is a book that I currently have at CGC. I want to say that my copy has maybe 2 spine ticks on it, so it definitely will not be a 9.8. But I did the math on it, and I felt like it was a book that was worthy of sending in to be graded. So someone asked about my thoughts on this book, so we want to go ahead and take a look at this one. And I'm specifically going to look at the 9.8 in this one. There are fewer numbers on the census, but again, some books, again, I just think they should be a 9.8, and this is one that kind of falls in that category for me, especially when you start to look at some of the values associated with the 9.8 versus the other books. So there are 350 of this on the census, 181 sales, and the FMV as of Go Collect as of today is 1850. So let's go ahead and click on that, and let's see what the data actually shows us. You can see right now that this book in June is going for roughly $2,000, and if we back up to May, the book was going for roughly roughly $2,000. If we back up to April, $2,000. February 17, we go back to, let's see if we can see in here, January, $2,100. So there is not a tremendous amount of movement on this book in any way, shape, or form. This is a book that has not been impacted by and large by what is happening in the larger economy. If we were to back up, of course, and go back to 2021, you can see this is ridiculous. This book was going for $4,100 at a 9.8. That fall off right there. If you bought back here, man, that is a tough fall. But right now, this book appears to be holding steady at roughly $2,000. So again, not a whole lot of difference between the May and the June price, about $200. So this is one of those maybe books. It's a maybe book. This book is basically holding course, holding steady. There is no bargain to be had here, not really. And when you look at some of the sales data, what you see is 2000, 2019, 14. That was maybe a smoking deal right there. 2100. There was a best offer here. Again, this book is roughly sitting very nicely at around $2,000, and you can kind of see that play out a little bit here with the 1 year to the 30 day. 1 year was at 23. 90-day 2000, and the 30-day is around 2000. So again, not a tremendous amount of movement here. If this is a book that you have your sight set on, it does not appear to be a deal to be had. So you may want to sit on this one and wait to see what happens down the line. A tough call here for this one. All right. So let me go ahead and bounce out of that. And I will do one additional example that was, again, also sent over to me. And this one is Young Avengers issue number 1. This book was super hot, right? Super hot for a while. First appearance of the Young Avengers, a lot of excitement, and also Kate Bishop, a lot of excitement around this one with the Hawkeye series that came out. There are a lot of people that believe that the MCU is going to have a debut of the Young Avengers at some point based upon a lot of these characters from the team already being in the MCU. And so it won't be a hard thing for them to introduce some of the others. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at Young Avengers issue number 1 that was released in 2005. And again, for this one, I feel like the 9.8 is the way to go. So that's what we're actually going to look at. There are 43 blue labels of this book on the census, and 4,300, sorry, and a total of 4,400 graded across all labels. So the 9.8, the census count is 1880, 700 sales of this book, and a current FMV of $650. So let's go ahead and click on this one. And what we can see is there appears to be a nice little decline on this one. Right now, the book is selling for $689. If we back up to June, it was $713. If we back up just a little bit, May $713. Let's look at January of this year. January was $979. And again, in June here, 6 months later, it is going for $689. That's a delta of about $300. So not a huge fall off, but the trend line for this one is somewhat clear. It is somewhat clear of a trend line. This thing is headed downward. You can see here the 1 year was $952. The 90-day was $730, and the 30-day is $692. Somewhat holding steady at the 30 to the 90-day, depending upon how one chooses to look at numbers. When you examine some of the sales over here, a couple of buy it now offers that were made, but you can see the recent sales here on the 23rd of June, 709, 600, 560. Another buy best offer here. Another best offer, 750 was the price back in mid June. So this book, again, appears to be a little bit on a downward slide that may actually continue, especially if there is no news that comes out about the Young Avengers. I'll be completely honest. I personally feel like this book is expensive, but that is my personal opinion, probably driven by the fact that I'm not a huge fan of the Young Avengers. Like, I have some of these books in my collection. I was, in comics briefly in 2005, 2006. So I picked up a lot of these books. I read a lot of these books, but I don't necessarily have the affinity that some people may have for this book. So I personally would not buy this one. But again, it's not about me. It's about you. And if this is a book that you have had on your list, you've had your sights set on it, you have to ask yourself, is this one that you want to pick up? And if you're doing it for the purpose of investment or speculation, the question becomes, becomes, what does the ceiling look like? What does the upward potential look like for this book should the Young Avengers appear in the MCU? And we can see here, if we go back and use 2021 as the high watermark for things when they were, giving away free money and that kind of stuff, you can see the price is about $1,400. So if that's the high watermark and you're at $700 right now, again, the potential might be there. The potential might be there, but you would have to be able to find this book at a fair price, have some things bounce in your favor, and then be able to sell it should the value of this book actually go up. But if you are interested in buying this book because you're a huge fan of the Young Avengers, you will have to make a judgment call as to whether now is the time to buy or whether you risk, letting this book continue to slide downward and pick it up a little bit later with no additional news. So there you go. So those were a couple of examples that I wanted to look at that were sent over to me by some folks that watched the first video that was done in this, I guess, maybe new series. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But what I will say to you is that if there are books out there that you want me to take a look at, be sure to leave those thoughts in the comment section. Send me DMs and things like that, and I will try to, as best I can, examine those books in future videos and give you my appreciation for whether you should snag them now or later. With that said, we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank you for checking the video out. I also want to acknowledge the sponsor of this video again, Shortboxed. If you are not on the Shortbox app, you are definitely missing out. I encourage you to click the link in the description, download the app, and check out their amazing inventory of graded books.